Hey there, welcome to my tutorial on using the debugger in Visual Studio. What I'm going to go over here is how to debug your software in Visual Studio. When you have your game or Unity application running, it can get really complicated and you have to use the tools that Visual Studio provides in order to debug your software. If you don't, you end up adding tons and tons of console outputs and trying to sift through all of the console outputs to see where your code is breaking. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, that you shouldn't add console outputs and try and follow your code through your console outputs, but Visual Studio provides a really easy and intuitive way to follow your code and troubleshoot it that I think ends up being a lot cleaner than adding console outputs to everything. So I think there's a good mix, a balance that you can use in order to find the best way to debug your code. In any event, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add an image element. So I right-clicked on the hierarchy, I went to UI, and I selected image. It automatically added a canvas and then an image underneath it. I'm going to make the image 750 by 750, and I'm going to position it right in the center. Okay, and then I've created this UI button script. The UI button script here, what it does is it checks for a pointer click. If a pointer is clicked, it increases this click count. So each time you click on it, pointer click, if it's 1, it'll be 2, if it's 2, it'll be 3. And so on. And then it'll output this message. You clicked on this object, and it gives you the game object name, number of times clicked, and then the click count. And then if the click count is 10, it says you want a free pizza for clicking 10 times. Then it calls this change UI color method. It sends in the color blue, which change UI color method is defined here. It grabs a reference to the image component on this game object, and then it sends that image component reference along with the color value into this change image color method, which takes the image component and the color, and it changes the color of the image component here by assigning the color property to the incoming color. So anyway, getting back to the main point here, if I hit play and I wanted to troubleshoot this thing and just click it, you can see my console line is starting to overflow there. Say, okay, great. I can kind of skim through this thing, what happened when I clicked 10 times. So there we go. There, you click 10 times, you win a free pizza for clicking 10 times, great. And then it just says you clicked 11 and so on. And it just goes on down the line. So if I were using Visual Studio to troubleshoot my software, and there's no break here, and actually why don't we add a break? Why don't we add some problem here? So I'll just comment that line out. Now what I could do in Visual Studio is I can add a breakpoint on the left bar here. Now the breakpoint basically just tells Visual Studio to stop the program where it's running and give the developer access to all of the variables in the current state of the object. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. So I hit this green button up here. Actually, let me do that again. There's the green attach Unity button. Go ahead and hit that. It attaches itself to Unity, and you can see that by the orange outline in Visual Studio. So now I can go to Unity, I can hit play, and I can start clicking. Okay, the first click count is 1. Great. So click count is 1. I can step into or I can step over. I want to go ahead and step over, and then it takes me to the end of this method on pointer click. And I step over again, it just takes me out and back into Unity. So that's how the program flows, and it sits in Unity just waiting for another click. So I click it again, it brings me again in here. Check if that's true. It says false. I rolled over the comparison operator. It shows me it's false right there. So I'll go ahead and hit continue and click it again. Now continue is another way to kind of skip over the rest of the code and just wait till this happens again. Again, it's false. fired off again. It's false. Now, instead of hitting continue, I'm going to change the position of this breakpoint. I can just click on a breakpoint anywhere. You click on it once, it adds. You click on it twice, and it deletes it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Now, I changed the position of that breakpoint. I changed it inside the if statement. So I'm going to go ahead and keep clicking. 6, 7, 8, 9. So it should break when we get it 10. So there we go. We hit 10. And now I can hit step over. And I can see it just stepped right out of that if statement. So I can immediately see that there was something wrong here. I wanted to change the color. So this line should have fired off. But it never called this because this has been commented out. So I can stop the program. I can say, okay, well, let me uncomment that. Control K U, that uncomments. Go ahead and save that. And now I added a breakpoint down here to my change image color. I'm going to go ahead and restart this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, nothing happened. The breakpoint didn't fire off because I never attached this to Unity. So let's attach it to Unity. Let's go ahead and stop this, start it again. 10, boom. I can see the image UI color. I can see the reference to the image component here. I can just kind of roll over it. I can look at it. I can see what's going on here. So you can see the derived class there doesn't contain the color, so it's somewhere in the base. So there we go. There's the base class there. So I can see the color. It's all white. It's 111. See the incoming color. Changes it to blue, 001. So now I can hit step over. Now I can look at the image color again. The image color is set to blue. So it's 001. All right. So you can see there quite easily. You can see whether a line fires off. It's not always that simple though. Maybe something along the way didn't get passed through properly. So you can add your breakpoint to any part of your code. I'm going to add it up here. I'm going to go back and start this again. Click on it 10 times. And now you can see I get to change color UI. I've got the blue. Now I can hit step into, and this will take me into the method that I'm calling here. Step into. Takes me in here into the method. You can see the highlighted line now is inside. I can step over. So I want to see it gets this image reference, or a reference to the image component. There, it fills that up. It's nice. Then it calls this change image color, which is another method. So I have to hit step into. So then I can step over the scope line. And I can see it's still got the image reference. It's got the color value. And I can hit step over. I can see the color value changed. So that example there was me kind of traversing through the entire stack of code so I could see what got fired off and when, and I could see the order in which all this code was fired off. Now that is really useful when you have a lot of code. Say you have, I don't know, 500 lines of code and you're calling different methods and you want to see what happens. Well, that's really hard to do if you're just outputting a bunch of console lines, especially if you use global messages or you use some kind of weak links so that you're not directly referencing other components or game objects, in which case you do need to add more breakpoints and different code. And we can get into that later as I get into more tutorials that are more advanced. But this gives you a real base knowledge of how to start using Visual Studio to track down code bugs and to kind of see how the program flows, which is extremely useful. Again, this example here is really simple, probably doesn't represent a really good program that needs to be debugged, because every program will need to be debugged, but this gives you the basic understanding. I think as you go through, The one thing I didn't mention here was the watch window. So if I hit play, you can see there's a watch window down here. Let me go ahead and get this into a break state. Let's add that right there. Click on it. So you've got the watch window down here. It's watch 1. You've got autos. You got locals. You got watch 1. You got find symbol result, which is a whole different thing. I'm not going to get into, but autos, locals, and watch are really important. So autos it automatically adds all of these variables to a watch window, which is good. Right now click count is 12. If I were to step over, click count is 13. You can see that down here. So this gives you a really good way to see something without having to roll over it. So you kind of get a quick glimpse of things. So if you wanted to see your game object, you wanted to see if the name changed or the color changed or something, you could always have this open. If you want to see something in this this script that we made, you could always see it here. Locals, this is everything that's local to this class, I believe. So you have your static members, which is the click count. You have your base, which is the UI button. We don't really have any properties here for this UI button. They all have references to the game object though. So you can see whether the game object's tagged or not. You can get the game object's name. Should be in here somewhere. Oops. Should be in here somewhere. There we go. Name, image. So you can kind of drill down pretty deep into your objects. You can see the event data. This event data has to do with the actual click, the position of the click, the button I clicked. So I clicked the left button. Click count, this is the number of clicks within a certain time limit. I think it's in a second, something like that. The delta, that's the difference between the last click and the current click and the click time, how long it took me to actually click. But so you can see, again, you can see that you can really get down in there and get a lot of data out of your classes, and then you can trace the program flow. So it's really important that you learn this early and that you use it often, because once you get into a state where you have to debug your software and you're not sure what's going on, it can get very hairy, and without knowing all the tools for debugging, you end up with the console and you start outputting a million different things, and eventually this becomes more confusing than helpful. So okay, I hope this helped. I hope this helped you all, and I look forward to posting new tutorials in the future. Again, if you like this, hit the like button. If you didn't, then just don't worry about it. But if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you want to go to my website and sign up to a mailing list, it's danmacfinsky.com, and you'll see there's a input field to sign up to my mailing list, and I'll try and send out notifications when I update videos and when I create any other tutorials or assets or blog posts. All right, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.